A first and a second for Matt Orr has him placed atop the standings. Empty Box seems fast and savvy, but the talent level around him will make it a tough fight. Much like last week, the drivers have come to a small and tight track that will force everyone to get cozy with one another. Let's see how they fare as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. If there's one telling thing about Tsukuba to illustrate its nature to our viewers, it's that it's more famous for hot lap competitions than actual racing. Let's head to our track guide to see just how cramped it really is here. Welcome to Tsukuba Circuit. With it being roughly an hour north of Tokyo, Japan, it has proven a well-loved venue in spite of its small size. If anything, its short lap length has contributed to its popularity due to it being perfect for time attack competitions. The 2K track has 3 layouts to choose from, ranging between 1.5 to 2 kilometers in length. The shortest is a mere 6 turns, while the longest has 14. Open wheel, touring car, and motorcycle racing is held here, but the cramped nature always makes it a challenge to overtake. The majority of the lap is defined by its 3 hairpins, which all include different radii in banking. However, perhaps the most difficult corner is the final long sweeper, which tightens as it goes. This lures drivers into entering too fast or applying the power too early. This makes it a critical corner, with the run down the front stretch into the first hairpin being typically the best place to attempt to pass. With the way they squeeze this venue into a tiny little footprint, there's almost no runoff room at the exit of most corners. Overshoot it and it's a quick trip into the barriers. Pit entry is a very narrow strip of pavement to the inside of the final turn, so practice will be required if green flag pit stops are expected during the race. Everything about Tsukuba on paper makes it seem like it would be a footnote in the world of motorsports, but because of its inclusion in a number of popular video games, it's become famous worldwide among fans and drivers. Well, Rob, despite the cramped nature of this place, the good news is that most of the drivers should be pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, here's the hoping. It's a very nice short track and it's perfect for these kinds of cars. 9 turns, 2 kilometers on a 1.27 mile run, really. It's one of the tightest tracks on the iRacing roster. And not only that, it really is one of the greatest tracks, especially for these kinds of cars.
Yeah, it's just about the right size. They're not going to get going too fast around here, but should give them some fun, at least, as we mentioned, with that twisty nature. But before we get to the racing, let's talk about our sponsor, Ringfree. A unified VoIP for your essential business. Find out more at ringfree.com. Choose connection. Now, let's choose our championships as well, starting with the pros. Of course, up at the top of that, it is Matt Orr with a tie between Arabian and Haycox behind him. A bit of a distance behind because of some hard luck for a few of the drivers, including Hardwick, who's only showed up for the first round, so he drops down a ways. Stefani and Gaspers rounding out the top 5. Gaspers also was not around in the, Hardwick was not around for the first one. Gaspers not around for the second one. Let's go to the Spec 2 championship here, Robert.
Evan Wood, 138 points, putting in a commanding lead over Chris Martin, 17 points behind him. Simon Mayer, only 29 points behind, so still all to play for between the top 3. Jesus Rodriguez, 41 points behind, just bipping the post to Justin Huffman, who's 49 points behind. The top 5, not too far. You know, it's still all to play for going into round 3. So let's see how they do. It'll be interesting to see.
Of course, there is the Masters Championship. Antonio Reese has got a very narrow lead over both Rob Hopp and Kenneth Bately. You only have a few more points down to Kraus and Gradwell. So Those drivers, after 2 rounds, have certainly not seen much to separate them, but some have been doing quite well, with Antonio Reese showing a lot of speed himself. What about today's race details, Robert? What are our drivers up against?
14-minute race of 1 fuel stop with open setups, so they'll be looking to see if they can get some undercuts or overcuts. There'll be some set of strategic thinking here going on. I'm hoping at least to see some undercuts. It'll be the perfect circuit for us, especially if you're trying to get out into some clean air. I think we saw at the last round that undercutting was actually quite effective. So I think some drivers are going to be looking to that pit stopping, because you can see there is the bright blue car just in our screens just went in. It's actually quite a tight entry. So sweep around, they sort of have to keep in between the lines at a very narrow stretch of tarmac there, as you can see, and be watchful for anybody accidentally escaping out. The pit stops here as well is going to be a bit of a tight one as well. As you can see, those cones, a little bit of distraction that can probably catch some people out, as we see David Gaspers going into his box. The width of these pit stops and the pit lane itself is actually quite narrow, so let's be careful out there, gents.
Not a lot of room in pretty much all senses of this track. Now, if you are wondering how to tell the difference between our 3 classes on track, it's all down to the numbers of the cars. Pros are all the 3,000 above iRating, but you can look for 0 to 199 numbers. And then the AM class is 200 to 899, so that's all the sub 3,000 rated. And then the Masters, well, what's that? Well, that's drivers over 60 years of age, and they simply have numbers over 900. So there's easy ways if you just check the timing and scoring tower, or just look at the cars, and you can be able to figure out who should be in what class. Now, as we wait for them to finish the warm-up, they've already taken their qualifying session, so that is indeed set. I guess the good news for our drivers is that despite starting with, like 50-plus drivers at Laguna Seca, they don't have quite as many here. Because even with as little power as these cars have, they're lapping this place at just over a minute in length.
I mean, if there was 50 cars here, oh dearie me, that would be a very tight track. You'd be sharing it essentially with 49 other people. And not only that, if you're a very fast driver cutting through the track at breakneck pace, got to very quickly meet some back markers, especially when, one of the shortest tracks on the calendar itself, and given the fact that, as you said, a minute lap times, they'll meet each other pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Pace difference can be pretty drastic even here, so it won't take them too long. We're a little over 30 cars, I think, here today that are looking to compete in just about 2 minutes time, which will be plenty to keep us busy on this track. It's not just the pit entry that you mentioned, but that pit exit reminds me of a few other tracks where it dumps you right into the racing line. Lime Rock Park comes to mind, the way it just comes into a fast corner.
Yeah, it's exceptionally tight. As you can see here, it essentially dumps you out, as you said, into the middle of the racing line. You sort of have to tuck in and pray and hope that you can get around the first corner, make effect. We can see here on board with car number 525, Joe Oliveira, as he comes into the first turn. He just almost slides it in, really. It's sort of having to use steering inputs and the brakes to slow the car down in time and get a good corner. But what you didn't see was on the right-hand side of him was a very, very open-ended pit where anybody can just come out, and essentially they're already at the corner. They have to take that racing line. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody gets caught out today. But here's the hoping.
And it's a little bit cloudy out today, but that means that the track temperatures are down here in Japan. Only 28 Celsius should be pretty good for the drivers out there, not slipping and sliding around too much. And in these last 30, everybody's got their practice in and feels ready to go, because it is going to be a busy day in all parts for our drivers at this track for round 3 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. So we're getting this championship well underway at this stage, and we've seen some very fast names. Matt Orr, though, we'll see once we get to the qualifying, didn't do quite as well on that side, but he's looking quick in the warm-up, so maybe he can try and move up a few spots throughout the race. We'll see if he can get himself another podium. Warm-up is over. It's time to go through the starting order, and it is Ferenz Arabian who is starting on the pole today. David Gaspers will be next to him with Oliveira in P3. Vaguely, very good qualifying for the 47 in fourth place. Rodriguez P5 and Reese starting sixth, and it's Murakami P7, McNichol in eighth, or all the way down to ninth, and Wood rounds out your top 10.
From 11th to 20th, it's going to be Jared Carlo. In the 12th position, it's going to be Myron in the 64 car, Thomas Renders in the 641 car, and 13th. 14th is going to be Tom Gradewell, Theo Taylor in 15th, Brad Spittle in 16th, Johan Butenga in 17th, Flavio Andolo in 18th. 19th will be Rob Hopp, and we will hop to 20th, where we see Kenneth Batley in 20th, running out your top 20.
Jason Christian will be in 21st. Jaburek will be to his side. You've got Benjamin Harris in the 23rd spot, followed by Hodgson in P24. Mike Taylor next in 25th. Duchenik, 26th. Moritz in 27th. Kraus, Cantor, Davidson, and Rogenbuck round out the field. It is a very short pace lap. We only take one corner, and even before then, the pace car is already in, so you can see the field ready to go. And Arabian in his traditional bright purple car, already taking off, and the green flag waves for round 3. He spreads them out with that early jump. The top 3 have all fanned out to find their own bit of space, but then it gets clogged up behind them. Someone sent it in deep, and I think that is McNichol trying to go to the inside of Vaguely behind them. Everybody else piling into the first corner safely. Let's see how they handle the next hairpin.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely megalomania around here, because it's hairpin, and then a right-hander. It's very tight around the first few corners, and they wanted a little bit of respite, but nope, there's another hairpin right there to greet them right around turn 8 into 9, and it's going to be like this for the first few laps as they try and fan themselves out, see who's who in the grid. We see Lawrence Arabian, while he did get the good start, he didn't have it for long, as David Gaspers has already sort of reeled him in and said, you're being too generous with that easy start. You're not going to get away from me that easily. He slides. Look how much pitch they have when they come into it. It's like the whole car sort of leans into the corner once they try and go around it. These cars are very sort of, you have to have a lot of mechanical grip to drive these things, and it's absolutely impressive to see the onboards.
Speaking of impressive, I'm pretty impressed with how Gaspers quickly is on the attack here. Almost had a look into the penultimate corner last time by. So head down through 3 and up towards the final hairpin. Let's see if he can get any closer to him this time. Ooh, very wide there on the exit for Arabian. He is pushing hard. I think he's trying to break away.
He has to do something, because he's got the black and green colored car of 21 right behind him. He's directly threatened for position, and on this track it's make it or break it, essentially, because if you make it, as you can just see, he's hooking ever so close to the pink car of the car number 6 of Ferenz Arabian as they come around. This track, like it or not, it's unfortunately very, very difficult to really make a move and then stick it, because what happens, you can see right here, Antonio Reese is trying to get on the inside, just trying to get past, get positions, get into clean air, but he's having to go side by side with, I think that is Jesus Rodriguez. It is indeed. He's having to go side by side, 2 corners, 2 hairpins. He had to go side by side. He didn't even make it stick. This is going to be the way that the Formula Vs are going to have to navigate themselves. They're going to have to make the move and then stick it. It's 2 distinct movements.
You mentioned the pit stops here. Oh, and we've got an incident. I think Theo Taylor involved in that, in the 793, and a few others. believe Johan Batanga as well involved in that one, sending him off. There you can see side by side, and Theo, very quickly spun out. That was almost immediate. So one car sent off, and it must have been a separate incident that I didn't quite catch who was involved, because I saw multiple drivers going down the orders. We once again check in on Rodriguez and Antonio Reese, and to his outside next, McNichol as well. He's fighting with him. Murakami trying to see if he can get involved in this. They come down to turn 3 once more.
Yeah, here's the problem right now, as you can see, as they come into this airport, too wide. Oh, crikey. That's, and it is Antonio Reese. Yeah, Antonio Reese, very unfortunately, spun out, and we have just a replay here. It just didn't work out for him as he comes into the second hairpin. Watch as he takes this line. Oh, and slide of doom. Oh, very close. He at least was not in the way of the racing line, but you could just see how upset the car was. It just turns in, and then it just kept going.
So his 30th place from last time is not going to get much help this time, as we once again look at Gaspers and Arabian starting to stretch out from Oliveira now. It's about a second and a half from P2 to P3, but still we have not seen Gaspers come into the pits. Now, before that incident that we saw with Reese in that battle, I wanted to ask you, because it's so tough to pass, don't you think that the pit strategy is going to be of utmost importance out here today?
That and making it to your box, having the perfect line. As you can see here, we just have cars going.
Sorry, Arabian lost the lead. I'm not sure if he missed a shift or what, but Gaspers got by out of the exit of the second hairpin. Here it is.
It does look like, as you can just see, he's coming around the first hairpin. He then comes out to the racing line and then just misses his, I think he missed his shift, because he definitely got going after that, but he's lost about 8/10 just from missing a gear shift.
Ooh, that battle with Rodriguez has gone south, unfortunately. He got hit from behind by Renders. Two of them came to a halt. Don't need to go to it, as this is still a very close battle between Arabian and Gaspers down into the first corner. This time it's Arabian's turn to give watch and see what Gaspers has with clear air.
It's going to be, we come back to the sort of pit stop strategy. Really right now, what they both need to do is calculate when they can make the undercut, because Gaspers can still make an undercut to extend his lead. It doesn't have to be Forens's call, so to speak. He can, Gaspers can still make that move happen in the pits. Just break away from Arabian as much as he can, and then if he's got the clear air, make the pit stop happen early, I would imagine, because if there's stragglers ahead of him, he'll not have the clean track that he needs. So it's going to be crucial timing.
He's got a good run here. Arabian looks to the inside. They're going to go wheel to wheel down into the final turn. And I think Gaspers may be willing to give that up, or is he going for the over-under? Over-under. He's going to get side by side yet again, and this is going to carry on into the first hairpin. So this go the way of Gaspers this time. Looks like he maybe finally has this one sussed out. So after an attempt, Arabian settles back into second, but that could be valuable information.
It also points out to the fact of how difficult it is to make the overtake, because what the camera saw was Forens Arabian tucked into the corner very tightly to try and make the move happen on the inside of David Gaspers, but David just kept a normal line, swung it in wide, but hit the apex just right for a huge speed boost coming out, because he carried a lot of speed through. He was able to take the over-under and just essentially secure his position. Now Forens will know Gaspers going to expect it, so he needs to think of something else.
This time he doesn't poke his nose in, even though he had just as good of a run. We got a battle behind them. This is the one that we have been watching it before. Murakami starting to stretch away from Orr, Kolo, and Hraski. They were all tight together, and unfortunately a few came together. Rodriguez, one of them, along with Renders. Oh, and the lead.
Yeah, I was about to say the lead has actually almost exchanged hands. Forens Arabian had the inside line coming into the first hairpin, but his chances were absolutely put for naught unless he can actually keep it on the inside for the right-hander past the second. Well done for Sarabia. What a great move he did. But Gaspers is not going to let him off that easily. The move was made essentially 2 corners back, but oh, crikey, very close. These are not the kind of cars that can take a beating. Let's just say that.
Open wheelers are not meant to try and hit one another in any sense or fashion. So as they come to complete the first 10 minutes of this race pretty soon, things getting frisky between our top 2. And let's not count out the battle behind them, because Oliveira actually might be under threat from Vaguely. Look in the background. He's going to poke his nose. And as he gets to the inside into the first corner, could Aaron maybe take this one away?
Yeah, Vaguely is going to have just enough speed. He definitely did slot in right in front of the 525's nose, but he definitely left him enough space and made the move nice and easy. Just planted it where he needed to be. Now, Vaguely is going to have his work cut out trying to keep up with the car 6 and quarter ahead of him. And, you know, Oliveira is definitely no sledge. He'll definitely put the fight to him. But in Vaguely's mind, he needs to just focus on what's in front of him now. He needs to focus on the green and the pink car right ahead of him. You can just see it on the screens there. It's 2x2 and then a group of 6 cars behind him. So he doesn't want to be back there. He wants to be up there.
Yeah, we took a glance at them before we had to jump away. The battle for the lead. We mentioned Murakami back there in 6, still being chased, but not quite under threat. Now, the interesting thing about Oliveira, I wonder if he doesn't have to fight. Whoa, we got a spinner in the background.
That's Jared.
Colo.
Yeah,
Colo. Oh, he's a bad place. Oh, no. Yeah, that's a very blind spot in a fast corner. He kind of did the right thing. He shouldn't have really moved the car in that situation, but unfortunately, it was damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, just one of the worst places that you can have an accident, and here's why. He has a perfect line, hits the curb, and the curb upsets the car, spins him round. Now he holds his brakes, and now just watch. As, oh, crikey, all sorts of cars trying to come by him, and then look at our friend Antonio Reese. His tire comes off.
So a few drivers had to take toes from that one, come into the pits because they couldn't go any further. Interesting thing about Reese is he's going to have an even worse day because Gradwell is leading that Masters class right now. He sits in 11th. I think that's going to become 10th pretty soon because of some of the toes that had to happen.
Just looking at Matt Orr right now, chasing down Chris out of car number 3, and it's going to be a battle for 6th position overall. And they have Ethan McNichol ahead of them, so it's going to be a 3-way battle between the 3 of them. But right now, Matt Orr is breathing down the neck of Chris as they come through the second hairpin. It's going to be a bit of a difficult dynamic to suss out because essentially, Matt Orr will have tried to get past him probably once or twice in the last few laps when we hadn't seen him. But right now, he also has the 3rd car ahead of him, and it's going to be very difficult to make the move and slot it in because the gap between them is so short.
Either got to get both or none, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah, because if you look at this, that is Chris looking on the inside of Ethan McNichols as they come around their sweeping right-hander turn 9. Does he make the move? He does, but Ethan McNichol is still there. Hold your lines. Oh, as we see Matt Orr looking to see if he can... Oh, don't make it 3 wide, not just yet. Oh, well, Matt Orr, fair play to him. He did, well, I say that, fair play. He definitely is making the moves he needs to, just putting himself sort of there, not actually making a move. He does go around the outside, though, of Ethan McNichol. Does he? No, he doesn't. I thought he was going to try and slot Ethan McNichol behind him and use the right-hander to secure the position. Probably the only place you can do it if you're in a 3-car battle right now, as you can just see Ethan is, I think he's not happy that he lost his P5, so he's gonna chase down Chris and breathe down his neck for a while. Or really, All he has to do is sit and wait and bide his time, make the move when he sees fit.
Been trying different moves here and there, but nothing has stuck yet. Should hopefully come his way eventually, or maybe he could snatch up both of them if they get too distracted by one another. He's got another good run. He looks to the inside and breaking very deep. McNichol tries to chuck it into the first hairpin. Doesn't get him the pass, but it keeps Orr at bay.
But this is going to be from bad to worse for Ethan McNichol if he lets Orr on the inside of one of these hairpins. If he tries that again, Orr would have seen sort of the line that he takes, trying to take back fifth position. So he's very careful. It's one of the worst places to be. Middle of a three-pack where overtaking opportunities are extremely limited, and it's Tsukuba. One of the very few tracks where it's exceptionally difficult to make a move. And these kinds of cars, yeah, it's going to be a lot of effort.
To come down the backstretch once again into the final turn. Murakami still holding over McNichol, and Ethan is strong on the front stretch. We've seen it a couple times now as he's going to try and get the run here, but it looks like he's almost balked mid-corner, almost pushing him down the straight. We heard some debate over that last time. We are going to go three wide as here goes Matt Orr round the outside. That doesn't fit. McNichol doesn't get it done on the inside. Nobody can seem to get past Chris.
Chris is putting up an absolutely staunch defense, a very good defense as well. He's just holding his line. That's essentially all he needs to do. Just hold his line, keep the corners, keep the chicanes, keep absolutely everything on lockdown. Keep the hairpins on lockdown, especially because if he opens up that door, it's not one driver, there's two drivers looking to get a piece of fifth place pie. That's a 66, just hounding him. But, you know, a very sturdy ship that Chris is driving. And do we see another move going into the 9? Do we see, oh, it's Matt Orr making the undercut? Yes. So one of the first drivers to make the undercut, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I think he's tactfully decided, all right, I'm going to be stuck behind these guys forever. So let's pit, get some fresh air, gonna.
Yeah, I like this call too. I think this is going to be the smart way to go. Almost looked like he took his spare car. We'll see when he comes out. No, he did not. So it's just a small connection problem for him. I hope that doesn't come back as he's racing, or will return in 18th, but behind traffic, which is not what he wanted. Oh, but he did get out at the right time. Murakami and Nichol have just wrecked one another.
Oh, and it's the second hairpin. There's actually 3 cars gone off. There's the other car. Oh!
Somebody else getting involved. Yeah.
So it just having a replay of this, we can just see. And we're looking at Chris' car. He's the car ahead. Oh, just a little bit of a touch on the rear end on the engine bay, actually. Tried rejoining. Oh, crikey. Tried rejoining, but that was a very bad rejoin. Rejoined right in front of McNichol. And I think they're both out because I think they both have lost wheels.
And that other one was a separate incident between Harris and Vucinic. But guess who was behind it? Antonio Reese. I think he escaped any damage, but he was selled up significantly. There you see another angle of the incident that certainly took 2 problems out of the lives of Matt Orr, who returns to the track and has gotten past the battle with Jaburek, who had come out in front of him.
Just looking at Matt Orr now. Yeah, that is Reese. He's had a day. Reese, poor Reese. I mean, you have to feel for him. But, you know, at the very least, we're looking at Matt Orr sort of in a mathematical sense right now. We're just trying to see gaps. He's got a 6-second gap to the next guy ahead of him, but that traffic ahead of him is looking very light. So, I mean, for these two, I wouldn't count Matt Orr out just yet, especially if they're going to be continuously battling. Lawrence Arabian and David Gaspers, since the start of the race, have been absolutely at it, gunning into every hairpin and just holding the line, especially in Lawrence's case, just holding, keeping Gaspers at bay. And it's coming through the technical stuff. He's doing a very good job of just holding him and seeing where he'll make the move. Usually probably turn 9. Oh, a little bit of a slide out from Arabian. He corrects it in mid-corner. David Gasper is sliding around him, trying to cut him on his outside and didn't get there in time. Does Gaspers make the move coming into 9? I don't think so, unless he tries to carry as much speed as possible coming inside into the first hairpin, but he doesn't have the run. I don't think he has the legs for this one.
No, it doesn't look like it this time. What impresses me about David is the way that he is so good at these mechanical grip cars. We've watched him, of course, in the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series a number of seasons, taking championships, and as well, the Lotus 49 is the other series here on GSRC. We've seen him compete and do quite well. So he's hopped over to something with a little less power, but I guess you could say similar in layout to the 49 in these cars. And once again, showing that he doesn't need wings. He just needs the rubber on the road.
Though he would benefit. Oh, as far as a little bit of a slide. He touched the curb on the inside. He's opened the door, but Gaspers is not there. He's not where he exactly needs to be. He had it just a slither of it, just coming onto the inside. He does have a slight speed advantage. I won't do much good on the sweeping right-hander, but you know, he can at least put the Lotus 49 experience to work here, because it would be, you know, a lot less script because the tires. He thought about it. He thought about cutting on the inside, and he thought about making the move there, but Gaspers, I think, is just going to play the patience game.
So far, it's been serving him well. We saw Vaguely make the pass on Oliveira, but it looks like Joao is holding on, might still want that third place back. A point I wanted to make earlier, and we have so much happen, is Oliveira might not be as interested in making this pass because he's our leader in the Spec 2 race right now in fourth, and Vaguely is running in the Spec 1, the pro level. So even though he would get more points being in third, his fight in the championship is not with Aaron.
It'd still be worth it to, you know, keep up with somebody who is in a higher spec than you, especially if you, like in this case, the gap's not going to open up unless either or makes a mistake. You know, Vaguely can make the mistake, and you know, Olivier can go by and go in fresh air. That is going to help him a huge amount because he can just put in laps under his own steam. But he might just be using Vaguely to as a book. It's sort of like a baseline, you know. Okay, this is where I need to make the cuts. This is where I need to make the corners. Apex, apex, apex. And he can use that knowledge. He can sort of learn while he's in the race in a little bit of a sense. And he's just seeing how somebody of maybe of a Spec 1 can do it.
Absolutely. It's all about that apprenticeship. Just trying to do what you can to see how the Masters do it. Meanwhile, the highest driver to have pitted is the one that we saw early on, Matt Orr, and he has been running in clear air since then. Hasn't had a single car in front of him except for having to pass Josh Jaburek in the 612 machine. So, Orr, though, his pace, I will say, is I'm looking pretty consistently in the 105s. The low one, spin in front of him from James Hodgson just now. Whereas the drivers in front of him that he's chasing is Joao Oliveira in P4, is running slightly faster time. So I don't think this is going to net him a position, though it did get him away what would have been a horrible wreck from his two rivals he was racing with.
I mean, he couldn't have known that was going to happen, but it was a very lucky thing to happen. As you can see, you did mention, by the way, that the top two are really, really going at it. They've been doing 104s consistently. They're actually one of the only cars consistently to do 104s. We have had a couple of, you know, best 104s, but these are the only guys that have actually been doing it consistently, and it's surprising to see they've been keeping it up for this long. If the track was warmer, I would have imagined that the tires would have been screaming at this point, but the track is about, you know, 27 degrees Celsius, the track temperature itself, so the tires are actually probably sitting pretty happy and pretty cozy. And the last laps, again, 104s. These two have been battling for the start of the race, since the start of the race. Been battling constantly. I have no idea how they've been able to keep it up, but I mean, props to them.
So we're still waiting on much of the front of the field to pit. That was, oh my goodness, again, Antonio Reese, who was off track there for a moment. Not sure if he had help or if that was his own doing. Looks like he had a bit of a run-in with Josh Christian. We don't need to go to a replay, but the two tangled into that second hairpin. And they do have an incident limit at 12 incidents. Look at a drive-through. I wonder if he's getting close to that, as that was Brad Speidel spun in the second corner. That was in a fight with Gradwell, our leader in the Masters class.
Yeah, so Brad Speidel coming in on the inside of the second hairpin. I think he just lost it on his own. If you can see here, we'll just have a look. Just spun out, just took too much speed coming into the second hairpin. Car got upset and yeah, spat him out onto the grass. At least he was able to keep it out of the wall, get back going again in clear, but it is put him down into 10th.
Ooh, things are getting interesting for the lead because they have caught lap traffic now. They're going to have to work their way past battling cars. This is Colo and Christian just in front of them. Would this be potentially a good time to come in and pit if you were Foreign's Arabian or David Gaspers?
Oh, absolutely. Like, no question about it, because you don't want to be, Foreign's, if you can get by them in the one corner, and look at Gaspers, he's made the call. Foreign's is saying, okay, I'll be confident enough to get by them. Gaspers is saying, no, I've already been stuck behind a pink car. I don't need to be stuck behind more than just one car. Let's get into the bits, undercut, and see what we can do. Get into the clean air. The clean air, though, is really starting to sort of wane away quite rapidly, especially given the fact that, Matt Orr, he was in clean air, and he did overtake Brad Speidel, but he had to actually fight him for position for the last little while. So any advantage he probably could have had between Foreign's fighting lap traffic to get by them probably has been lost, because he's had to battle for position on track. And it'll also depend on if Foreign's chooses now to pit, or if he sticks out until the tank is essentially as low as it can go. He doesn't look... No, he's not going to pit. He's going to stick out.
They can't go a little bit longer, so he certainly has options. But yeah, I'm starting to wonder if this is a poor call from him, because he got held up in traffic, unless he thinks he can start to outrun Gaspers. Gaspers himself is stuck in a few cars that he's having to overtake. This could go either way, but to give you an idea of the pace of these two that we've been following, Matt Orr is about the full length of the front stretch behind Gaspers right now when David came out of the pits. So Orr, who's been running in clear air and was a front runner, was not able to catch up to him. Here's the comparison even between Matt and Arabian, and yeah, just almost a full second in some cases slower than the leaders.
Yeah, I think he was trying... I think Matt Orr was just trying to see if he can make the move and then stick it. But just the speed between Foreign's and, Gaspers, it really took the breath away. And you could just see on our screens, battle between second and third is still going on. It's 4 different classes, but props to Oliveira for sticking with Aaron in the 47 car. And it's not looking good, I don't think, for Matt. Or I think he needs to keep pushing as best he can. But the 105s, he's not going to do well.
Yeah, Vagley and Oliveira running just enough faster that I think he wouldn't have been able to pull in enough to undercut them. But we're starting to get to the end of the pit window from here. And someone else coming in from the top runners is the 664 of Butanga. So he is going to enter his pit stall. Gasper's our highest pitter, or second behind him. And you have to go to Andalo who is in 15th. Not sure if he'll be able to come out ahead of Johan.
You could just see the battle between Myro and David Gaspers. Gaspers essentially trying to get to clean air as fast as possible, making a very good move on Myro, who lets him by. I think he saw Gaspers coming in the mirrors and just said, nope, it's not worth fighting, and he's going to pit me to the post anyway, because Myro still has to pit.
Oliveira did just now, and Vaguely did not. So second driver of these top fights to have pitted from behind their rival to see if they can undercut them. But we haven't really gotten the results yet. The tests are still out. So we've got to wait for Arabian to pit. Now we've got to wait for Vaguely to come in as well. Forens is just coming around the penultimate the final hairpin, penultimate turn. Let's see if he decides to dive in this time. He's making motions like he might.
Yeah, he needs to be confident in his move. As you can just see, we're looking at Gaspers. It's it's now a battle to see how good you can pit, really. How easily can you slot it into the box, and how quickly can you get out of there. The time that Matt Orr took from cone to cone was 23.3 seconds. So that is what Forens Arabian needs to beat. Gaspers took 26.3 seconds cone to cone. So it's going to be tight between Gaspers and Forens.
Gaspers 10 seconds, 11 seconds in his box, really. Arabian 10.5, so he's slightly quicker. Here comes Gaspers as we watch the exit, and Arabian's out. He is going to stay ahead.
And what's even worse is that what we was fearing was that there would be a huge sort of little panic of, oh, I need to take my pit stop. And just as Forens Arabian, pitted, I was thinking to myself, there's a little lack of them going in. So he definitely picked the right turn or the right choice to take his pit stop, because it was really quiet out there. So he didn't have to contend with anybody else. He just had to contend against the clock. And that's the only thing he has to contend with now, as he's ticking down past 10 minutes to go, and he's only got Gaspers to worry about.
Yeah, so Gaspers has some time to make up. He was about 3/4 of a second back from Arabian after the pit stops, where he sits now. Vaguely continued on this lap. He's going to run it dry, it seems. And we're still waiting for him. Hraski, actually, he just came in. So did Wood. Looks like Gradwell's going to stay out. So will Taylor. There's the 47 of our current leader, enjoying the clean air in front of himself. The Hoosier is just spotting his marks out in this track, and boy, they must have the only opening in the clouds above the track right now. You can see how cloudy it is everywhere else as he goes by a spun car. That was Colo.
And we just see now the flood of pitting cars. I think Vaguely is going to join him. He is looking to see his pit entry. Yep, he's into pits as well. And just look how tight this is. This is on board. This is all the tarmac you have to navigate to the pits. It is so extremely tight. And then the pit limit window opens up very close to where you right the wheel, essentially making it level with the tarmac. And it's not one that you want to get wrong. You can spend an extra 30 seconds in the box very easily.
That's true. Well, it looks like in his fight with Oliveira, he's coming out now. Joao behind him, and Vaguely as well. Clear. So last time out, undercut, viable strategy. This time out, it seems to have failed a few people.
I think Matt Orr would be the one person I think would be upset that not upset, but disappointed that the undercut didn't work to his favor, because he had a very good pit stop. And he can be very happy that he met his mark. Had, I think, one of the fastest pit stops, not just pipped to the post by, I think it was I'll come back to you on that one, but I think it was a pip to the post by one other person. And as we know, Matt Orr can make magic happen in the pits, as he did the last round. But unfortunately, this time around, It's just not worked out for him. I think it was also due to the fact that Gaspers and Arabian just kept going faster. Like, it was just like, okay, you 105s, I'll go 104s constantly. Boom, boom, boom. Lap after lap, they were doing 104s, and they just kept steaming away.
Yeah, I think he does, in fact, have the fastest pit stop, which makes me a little concerned about whether he can make it to the finish. Next nearest was Mike Taylor at 8.5 seconds, which is a full second and a half slower than what we saw from Orr. On board with Arabian now, looking back at Gaspers. He's caught him, and the battle is on. He's going to have to pass him on track. Contact between the pair of them.
Just hooked into the gap between the bodywork and the rear right suspension, almost spun him around. Very close indeed. If you can just see on the replay, look how close they were. Oh, just a little tap is all that it takes to spin these cars around. Very lucky by Arabian. Good going by Gaspers to back away after the little contact, but he does have the work cut out for him to get by him. It's not going to be easy for them out there. It's set exceptionally difficult to pass here, as we've said multiple times before, but they're the two fastest drivers on track. There's traffic all around them. They really do have to, you know, it really does have to be a sort of who can navigate traffic best, I think, for the last 5 minutes.
Fastest lap right now belongs to Foran's Arabian, who is the leader of this race, but Gaspers was off by 0.03 of a second, I believe, on that fastest lap. So it could easily swap around. It could come down to the slipstream, what little there is to offer around here to these lower powered vehicles. And there's only 5 minutes left to go. They've also separated themselves from Vaguely by a wide margin. He sits in third and is 12 seconds back from them. So if they do start to fight, there is no concern about what could approach from behind. I'm just trying to calculate in my head. I think we'll have another 4 laps past this. It's running out of, it's running out really for Gaspers to start making moves. And looking at how close they've been running so far, how has Gaspers been able to hug so tightly to the back of Arabian's car? You can see here, he's really following him close. You wouldn't want to do this normally in any other car. And, with the closeness that's been running, especially the different lines, Arabian's been following a very tucked in line, sort of kissing the apex almost twice throughout a hairpin. As you can see there, he sort of took a shallower line in, kissed the apex on the entry, and kissed the apex on the exit. Gaspers is following a kiss the apex directly in the middle, trying to get a best run out possible. They've been matching lap times constantly, but he's still gonna get by him. This is going to be a very difficult job. They are being approached by Rob Hopp, interestingly, but he is a lap down car, so I'm not sure. Are they saving fuel, maybe? Gaspers hit a personal best of a 104.511. That's actually fastest lap of the race, I think, now. So David Gaspers found some speed.
I mean, if he's saving fuel, he's definitely not showing it if he's pulling the fastest lap. He is the fastest lap by 1/200th of a second. Barnes Arabian is the next person I see. Oh, that has put in a best lap. Barnes Arabian put in a lap of a 104.533 as his best. And Gaspers has pipped him to the post by just 200ths of a second. Just look how close Gaspers is. And he's the car's struggling to get in. You see how it stepped out, sort of understeered out. It stepped out on him. He couldn't take the line that he wanted to. The tires are starting to wear. They don't take tires for these kinds of races. It's not worth it, especially with the amount of time that you lose in the pit stops. And I think Gaspers is starting to see that his tires are not going to take the same level of punishment. Oh, he's trying something new though. That's the key thing. He can't keep as he just gets by somebody who loses it on the inside of the second hairpin. He just needs to keep it focused. Try something new. That's the best thing he can do right now, because following him is not working.
He's going to try around the outside, maybe looking for the over-under, but parking it at the apex. Arabian denies him once again. We're going to be 2 to go at the line. And they now are actually pulling away from Hop. So I thought for a second he was catching them. Maybe they were just slightly slower than normal, but pace has picked up. 2 to go up on the flag stand, crossing underneath and down into turn 1. Will we see Gaspers go for again? Ooh, a little bit of a jink and then maybe a late defense from Arabian. Hard to tell.
Yeah, it's starting to get to the stage where they can see the end. They can see the goalposts. He just launches it around the outside, but the tires are not agreeing with him. The tires are squelching as they're trying to come around. Gaspers is trying to hook it around the outside and keep it there. It did work just about, but the car disagreed with him. You could just see there on the onboard, he was just having to pitch it in and then keep it going in because the car was just essentially going, I'll just go around the outside and I'll just keep going into the grass because it was really tight.
So, it doesn't depend on who wins as the white flag comes out. Gaspers and Arabian, neither of them have won in the first 2 rounds. So we're going to have 3 different winners in the first 3 races, and they get to settle it here on this last lap. Arabian put it on the pole, briefly lost the lead. Gaspers been chasing him, attacking, doing everything he can, ran long and held on, or pitted early and didn't take the lead away as once again he attacks down into the second hairpin. Now it swings back around up towards the final hairpin, maybe the last great spot where he could attempt to pass. Does Arabian cover off the inside? Yes, he does. He's going to force him to go the long way around, and Gaspers is going to try and find the grip, almost gets shoved off the track as the 2 of them bang wheels, looks for the slipstream, but I don't think the speed is there as they come down towards the final corner. 2 cars battling in front of them. Let's hope that doesn't become a part of this. Defending the inside again, Arabian having to cover him off. Gaspers, it's not going to work. The over-under just doesn't have enough straightaway as they come to the line. Almost, but not there, as Arabian takes the win by a mere 8 hundredths of a second.
And just behind them is Vegele coming home in 3rd. He'd be very happy with that, the last step on the podium. But my personal favorite is this man, Oliveira, in the car 525, who he definitely deserves more mention. And Matt Orr, the undercut did not work this time around. Unfortunately, he just couldn't match the lap times that Ferns Arabian and David Gaspers held. And it's a shame because he definitely had a great pit stop.
So we have 12 cars left on the lead lap, and actually the battle amongst them, 11 and 12, is quite close. That's Renders and Hodgson. These are the ones that we saw battling into the final corner ahead of our leaders. They got one more to try and get it sorted, but Renders is going to take that 11th place. Yeah, let's remember to mention that Oliveira won that Spec 2 race, and Gradwell did win that Masters race. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Tsukuba. Round 3 in the Formula V Weekend Warriors went to Foreign's Arabian, our third different winner in 3 rounds, but it was close. It was only 0.08 of a second at the line as David Gaspers tried one last lunge, a few last lunges on that final lap, and none of them stuck. Oliveira came in 4th. I thought we had Aaron Vagley who finished in 3rd, but there must have been some sort of penalty there at the end. No, excuse me, backwards. So I was looking at the wrong thing. It was Vagley in 3rd, Oliveira in 4th, as Matt Orr rounded out your top 5. Rasky, bit of a quiet race. Wish we could have given him more love, but he went from 12th to 6th, as Evan Wood was 7th. Bitanga was P8, as Tom Gradwell was 9th, and Undalo rounded out your top 10.
And we had in 11th and 12th of Thomas Renders and James Hodgson, respectively, fighting them until the very end. We did see them on the cameras just as the leaders were passing line. They were coming into the first hairpin, and they take 11th and 12th and 13th is Theo Taylor. Brad Spittle, unfortunately, did not recover as much as we would hope after his little spin coming into the second hairpin. In 15th, Rod Hopp. In 16th, Mike Taylor. 17th is Jeff Cantor. Bill Kraus in 18th, Kenneth Batley in 19th, so he improves 1 position, and Josh Jabrek in 20th. In 21st, Benjamin Harris. 22nd, David Davidson. Jason Christian in 23rd. Antonio Reese, very unfortunate race for him. He really just did not have the best of luck out there. Hopefully he'll come back next week and have a good race in his pockets. Chris, after his accident, finished 25th, and rounding out are the rest of the people who unfortunately were 2 or more laps down. So we have Mikhail Vikunik, Jared Colo, Joe Marant, Ethan McNichol, Jesus Rodriguez, and Alexander Ruggenbuck.
That takes us to our winner this afternoon, Foreign's Arabian. Foreign's, it looked like you had to fight really hard for that one, but what surprised us was the lack of the undercut having any sort of effect. Were you aware of David pitting earlier to try to undercut you, and were you at all concerned about him being able to jump you in the pits?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. Well, for the undercut, during the last races, what I realized is once the leaders start fighting, the undercut is very powerful. But given that me and David, basically David couldn't pull a move on me during the laps, he couldn't create that undercut. Well, he didn't have anybody to create the undercut for him. Yes, there was some back markers, but I got by pretty easily.
And that worked out in the end. Even still, there was a couple times he managed to get by you. Were those times that he did get the pass through? Did that inform your defense later in the race?
It was mostly involving me missing my shift, given that I believe my biggest advantage today was being able to get into second gear and out through both of the hairpins, the smaller hairpins. Yeah, it certainly... We're both on Discord, so I kind of knew that he didn't have a chance to get an exit out of the second hairpin. So my job was just to hold the inside and make sure that I get my shifts correctly.
Well, and that you did. Next round, we head off to another place in Japan, Okayama. How do you think you'll fare there?
It seems to be more of a technical track. I think the problem with these cars is the draft is extremely strong. It allows a less technical driver to keep up and to create pressure up the front. That's where you get to see that undercut you were talking about being extremely powerful. If you can get some clean air, I really believe you'd be faster.
So we'll keep that in mind up here. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to after taking this victory?
It's my girlfriend's birthday weekend. So it's not only America's birthday, but also hers. So I wish her happy birthday.
Oh, perfect timing there for Foreign's Arabian, who takes the win. And then the man who followed him home by mere feet is David Gaspers. Rob has caught up with him.
David, a very hard-fought and unfortunately second place doesn't communicate how well you drove out there. But take us through it. How was battling Arabian out there today?
a bit annoying, to be honest, because I couldn't manage to do the second last corner in second gear, but it was quite a bit faster out of the corner. So I never really had a chance to take him into the last corner. No matter how bad his exit was, he was still pulling away, so that was a bit annoying.
It's we saw the battles going on, especially going around the hairpins. You were trying to get around the outside, and with 2 or 3 laps to go, you're trying something new. Can you take me through sort of what your thought process was going through the motions, sort of start of the race, mid race, and at the end of the race when you were trying to get by him?
I was just planning to attack him whenever possible because I never had a run out of the last corner. I didn't really have any chances. So for the second corner that first happened, I couldn't really run my normal line behind him because I brake quite a bit later and go a bit deeper into the corners. So that doesn't really work when I'm behind someone. Same with the last corner. And
a final honest question for me is: how are those tires? Are they hot, or are they still good for next week?
The tires were fine. I think that's what was my biggest advantage compared to Foran's towards the end of the race. He was sliding a bit more in the hairpins, so that's why I think I was a bit faster towards the end of the race.
Well, David, commiserations on second place, but you definitely do have the pace to get onto the top step, so we are looking forward to see you at Okayama next week. So get them practice laps in.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I really don't like practicing.
Well, good to see you next week then.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it appears that David is not talking about practice. We'll see if Aaron Vagley was. As Aaron, congratulations on a podium. Excellent pace today. You had to fight off Joao a little bit for it, though.
Yeah, he definitely put up a fight. Got a bit nervous holding there. Yeah.
We heard a similar story between Foran's and David, where David tried to pull the undercut on him, and Joao pitted before you did. Similarly, did you kind of know what was going on in terms of pace and being able to keep him behind you once you came in to respond?
I had a little bit of an idea, but I'll be honest, it was kind of just a guess. I was kind of going with the idea that maybe the car will be a little bit lighter and I can keep up my own pace a little bit and, maybe get away from some of the lap cars too and hopefully have a good pit moment there. And it just worked out. I didn't have any traffic in front of me or anything like that. So it just kind of worked out.
We've seen you really pick up speed, especially compared to when we were watching you run in the Spec Racer Fords. So you are now very much a front runner. When we head off to Okayama, do you think you can repeat both the qualifying that you've been holding up so far in these first few rounds, as well as these race results? Because that could put you in contention for the championship.
I'm really hoping so. I'm not sure if next week is okay. Yeah. So yeah. I'm kind of hoping so. I know I'm gonna have to miss one of the races coming up due to a special event, but really hoping to keep up the pace going through the rest of the season.
Well, we'll keep an eye for you and see if you can manage that speed. Anybody you want to thank for the podium?
My followers, just for giving me so much support. They were pushing me to keep pushing harder during practice and qualifying, and honestly I did this all for them, so I'm really happy that they were all here to witness this. So
always glad to have a party behind you to cheer you on. And so Aaron Vagley takes third. That's going to round out our interview. So before we go, we want to thank our sponsor for this series, Ringfree, a unified VoIP for your essential business. Find out more at ringfree.com. Choose connection. Also, we want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts, listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is there in case you want to check out more of that great work. Thanks to the team today, Rob, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Our social media is listed on the screen, and if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We got a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, will be at Okayama Saturday, July 10th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.